Hi, well, as I said, we're here to do the candidate forum. Thank you everyone for coming. I'm glad to have you guys. We are still waiting for Joy, but if she comes in, that's great. But either way, um,
You made it.
oh, oh, awesome, cool.
Sorry.
No worries. BSA standards make sense. Okay, great. Well, here then. So as Casey said, my name is Cameron, and I have two fellow interns, and I think we're going to start off with really quick 2-minute introductions about who you are and more broadly what we're, well, first off, I'm a UCSC student, fourth year politics major, and let's introduce other interns really quick.
Hi, I'm Channing. I'm also a fourth year politics major.
Hi, everybody. My name is Richa, and I'm a second year politics and legal studies double major at UCSC.
Okay. And now, if our candidates, I suppose we can start with Susie. You get to go first because you got it.
Yes. Well, let me just start by thanking the interns for these tough questions that you sent in advance. I think that you put together a really good set of questions for us to consider, really complicated, honestly. And while not an economist, I am very passionate about the work that the chamber does. So I just wanted to share that appreciation for the time that you put in. And then also just mention my experience with the chamber. So I'm Susie O'Hara. I'm running for Santa Cruz City Council District 5, which includes part of the UCSC campus, part of the Upper West Side, and then it falls down into Harvey West, which is one of our oldest and most diverse industrial business areas that hosts many, many businesses, some that have been there for decades and some that are brand new and moving into Harvey West, and then picks up the Tannery, which is an amazing arts community in town, and then moves over down River Street and then up into the Holy Cross neighborhood. So my district is quite diverse. And as it relates to the chamber work, I just wanted to also share my appreciation and understanding of the work that the chamber does to not only support our local businesses, but really thinking about the prosperity of the entire community through many different angles. So that's kind of the way that I would present myself. I'm a 17-year resident, almost 18 years of the city of Santa Cruz. I'm currently a UCSC resident. My husband is a history professor up here, and we live in one of the provost's house. So we are immersed in the UCSC undergraduate community and have been since 2020. I am a longtime city employee. I left the city a couple of years ago, but I'm a water resource engineer that worked at the water department and then moved over to the city manager's office to work on all things city policy. So basically all the things that the chamber engages with, across the different businesses that are involved in Santa Cruz, but also the different issues. So I think that means that it's time for me to be done. It would have been, yeah, thank you. I'll answer more about myself as we get further into the questions.
Of course, of course. Thank you for that. And that's Hector Morin. You could introduce yourself next, please.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much, Cameron, and thank you so much for the Chamber of Commerce. Thank you so much for the Susans as well. Thank you so much, Richa. Thank you so much, just everybody involved within the process, Channing as well, and special shouts out to all of y'all for opening up this space. I know how challenging it can be to be UCSC students to organize as well. So a little background for myself is my name is Hector Marin, pronouns he, him, his. Former Banana Slug as well, class of 2021. So shouts out Banana Slugs. And I concurrently work as a educator within Harbor High School, where I serve the special needs students for the youth as well. And not only am I working there, since living in Santa Cruz, you got to work a bajillion jobs just to stay here. I also work as a restaurant worker, as an essential worker for the View restaurants. So we feed the community, and that's in that same essence. And the one thing that my background consists of is ensuring that we have community education and that we proactively organize together and that we collaboratively make choices so we can not only maximize the profits and expand the revenue within the city, but that we also provide services for marginalized community members, for the youth, for our UCSC students, that we house our youth appropriately, and not only that, but that we involve everybody within the local political process, because everybody loves everybody. Hashtag. So yeah, and even as a banana slug, I used to advocate. I can currently do for housing. As I used to serve as the chair of the NAACP local political chapter, as the chair of political action within there, where we actively collaborated with local institutions such as UCSC, such as the Big Five ethnic organizations, to better bridge the communities of UCSC with the city of Santa Cruz as well. So I served in that capacity. I also served as a AFSCME 3299 union worker and as a service worker as well, where I helped represent service workers of the rights of unionization. And again, most of our people within the service work industry are bilingual, so they don't know their education or their education of unionization. So I provide those bilingual services, and we need to ensure that we have someone that can put community first. So thank you.
All right, thank you for that. And last but not least, Ms. Shinoda, if you could introduce yourself.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Sorry, I was a few minutes late. So yeah, my name's Joy Schendel-Decker. I am running for City Council District 3, and I'm involved. I'm a parent and an educator and a community organizer. I'm involved with several community groups, and in terms of my history with governance, I have served on a local school board of governors in the past, and I'm also an artist. And so my motivation for running for city council, again, is really fundamentally to increase participatory democracy. I really think that's the foundation for having a city that is truly inclusive and where we have a real partnership between constituents and our governance bodies. So I have a whole list, a whole platform of how we get there, but that's really my number one motivation. And I would say the second motivation for me is the thing that really gets me in my heart, and what brought me to deeper into community organizing and to electoral politics. It has been working with people who don't have housing, who either live outside or in vehicles, and building relationships with people that I consider friends, neighbors, and people that are close to me, and hearing from them firsthand about their experiences, what helps and what doesn't help, and frankly, how they're often suffering because of the sort of status quo policies that we have when we have better options for public health and social safety nets. So that's my next biggest heartfelt motivation. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for those introductions. And I think that we can head into the question, section of this forum. And there's a quick reminder for the candidates as well as anyone who joined. Every candidate will be asked the same question. And it's not a debate. It's more of a forum, but do feel free to respond to something that another candidate says something that you very much agree with or vehemently disagree with. Like, you can make that difference known. So yeah, I think that going to give it off to Richa, who's going to ask our first question.
All right, first up, I just want to thank you all again for being here. We really appreciate it. So let's get right into the questions. Starting off, we want to talk about the recent increase in the California minimum wage. So in 2024, it's going up to $16 an hour, and this is going to be impacting all employers. we just like to delve into your guys' perspective on who you think the potential winners and losers are resulting from this change. And do you believe in advocating for minimum wage increases, or do you have reservations about potential impacts on the businesses and the economy or other factors? Feel free to bring them up. And since you were first, you get to start again, Ms. O'Hara. So whenever you're ready.
Yeah, thanks for the question. So generally, I'm supportive of minimum wage increases. And as Hector mentioned, those that are earning minimum wage in our community typically can't survive in the community on one job, in this community on just one job. And so with the cost of living that we have currently, I think, ensuring that folks have a fair wage across different, economic levels and across different business models is essentially what we have to do. That being said, there are challenges with increases in minimum wage, particularly with the tourism industry and a service industry in our community. I mean, much of our economy is built on our service industry, our restaurant industry, and our tourism industry, where most folks earn close to minimum wage or minimum wage. And because of that, those businesses, it's a real, sorry, I just caught the cat here. It's a real impact that we need to be considering with regard to our local businesses. And the way that I think about that is, what is the city's role in supporting local businesses as we move through minimum wage increases? And to me, that's really about fostering more solid patronage, ensuring that we have a lot of activity in our commercial districts, working with our downtown association to ensure that we're keeping good communication with our local business owners and also in other commercial districts, and ensuring that our local businesses are supported. So that's generally what I think about the minimum wage question.
Thank you so much, Ms. O'Hara. And now moving on to Mr. Marin.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much for the question, Richa. So I'm definitely supportive of the minimum wage increase. We need to ensure that we provide livable wages for our essential workers and for our workers as well. That's the most important aspect. And not only that, but also UCSC students are the ones who usually be working these jobs. So we need to ensure that if the cost of living is going up, then the wages are similarly going up as well. Additionally, what is also true is that we need to ensure that we have economic growth within our local economy and that it's also sustainable. Sustainability is also the key. So we must ensure that we create much more consistent pipelines of communication between our small businesses and our big businesses that reside here within Santa Cruz, so our economic services can be expanded, and so we can have a lot of revenue. So city services can be funded as well. We need to ensure that it's also sustainable for business owners of all shapes and sizes.
Thank you so much, Mr. Marin. And now moving on to Ms. Schendel-Decker, whenever you're ready.
Thank you. Yeah, Chayla the cat has joined us, so I apologize if she's distracting. But it is fun for me to have the cat with me. So I of course I support raising the minimum wage. We also know that it's not even close to the city's own living wage ordinance, and it's really, really, really far away from what's considered a housing wage for the city and county. So $16 an hour is better. In terms of from the worker side, it's still not enough for people to not be burdened by cost of living issues. I think that in terms of small business owners, I can understand the concerns with the cost. I think when you look at the big picture, when local workers are paid well, that money tends to stay in communities because they spend their money in the communities. So, if they have a little bit more income, then they have a little bit more to spend and on goods and services. In addition, when people are less stressed, potentially working fewer jobs. I don't know if $16 an hour is going to get people there, but potentially it's heading in the direction of people being paid enough so that they're not totally stressed out, living in overcrowded situations or unhealthy living situations where they don't have a second or a third job. Then they can do their jobs better when they are there. They'll be less tired and hopefully happier and more productive. So I would, I guess, try to allay the fears of small business owners on that regard. And then, you know, if small businesses are like really affected by that pinch, then, you know, supporting them to meet their obligations.
Thank you all so much. And now I'm going to go ahead and pass it on to Channing for our next question.
Hi, everyone. So going off of Rich's question, I wanted to ask or say the Santa Cruz community is very proud to maintain a small business dominated downtown. What will you guys do to protect the status quo as property prices rise and housing prices make labor more expensive? Mrs. O'Hara, if you would like to start us off again.
Sure, you can feel free to mix it up. So I'm not always the first person to answer, but yeah, so I'm happy to answer that question. So with regard, you know, I think as a longtime resident of the city of Santa Cruz, I have lived and breathed how important our local businesses are and how much of a culture we have in Santa Cruz to shop local and keep our local dollars circulating in our local economy. And as Joy mentioned, that, you know, for every dollar spent, local dollar spent, we get an ROI that's really, really different than if we're spending our money online and making our purchases on Amazon, for instance. So very much in support of keeping that small business dominated downtown. You know, I think that the way we support that as a sustainable kind of cultural expectation is we continue to incentivize small businesses. So we think about tax incentives, grants, and subsidies. I think our downtown, I think our city economic development department does a really good job of ensuring that, you know, as we have folks leave the downtown, that we are incentivizing folks to come in, and the diversity of businesses is really important. Think about our zoning and development policies to ensure that we have a strong policies at the city to support small businesses and local businesses. And then in general, I also think it's really going to be about workforce development and housing workforce development and thinking, how do we capitalize on the many different industries that are trying to make a go here in Santa Cruz, whether it be in the medical field and our restaurant workers, other essential workers. How do we capitalize on other jurisdictions, whether private-public partnerships, to build workforce and build housing for our workforce? And, you know, if we can keep people here, our downtown will thrive. If our downtown businesses can slow down their attrition rates on their employees, we will have a better chance of keeping our downtown small business thriving.
Thank you so much. I actually wanted to turn and ask Mrs. Schendeldecker. I noticed in your bio on your website, you specifically mentioned that you wanted to keep real estate fingers in every pot, out of every pot. And I just wanted to like see how that might intertwine into your answer to this question.
Yeah, one thing that I've spoken to small business owners and hopeful small business owners in the downtown area about is their struggles to pay the rent. If they're an existing business, the rent is incredibly high for most people, unless you own your own building. You know, a lot of our nonprofits spaces, community spaces, they exist largely because they either own their own building or they are given a real deal on the rent by a friendly landlord. And for other people, they're really squeezed by the rent, or they're not able to open their business at all. Especially, I've talked to people about the Logos building, and my understanding is that that building is not occupied largely because it needs seismic retrofitting and ADA accessible restrooms and a sprinkler system. And that is a huge expense that a potential tenant is expected to make. And I've heard that from other potential tenants, business owners who have looked for a year or more for a space downtown to open a business. And if, they would have to spend $70,000 on a sprinkler system. And I don't really understand why a commercial tenant would be responsible for infrastructure to a building when a residential tenant would never be expected to do that, right? So that's something that I would love our local journalists to research and write about this so that the community can understand this real barrier to people beginning and maintaining their businesses. I would also say that, as a District 3 person, and maybe I can get into this another time, Mission Street is our West Side Main Street. And I don't know if you drive through here regularly, but there are a lot of empty businesses and some vacant lots. And I'd like that to be occupied by local businesses.
Thank you so much. Moving on to Mr. Marin.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much for the question, Channing. The one important thing that I feel that one has to have within the current city council is that there's representation. Every little vote counts. Every vote counts between every single city council member, because that impacts your representation. And what is going on right now is that when we're elected within city council office, we'll be able to vote on downtown efforts and on downtown businesses that will benefit downtown businesses and benefit the downtown and the city of Santa Cruz economy. My opponent can't say the same thing because she has to often recuse herself from her conflict of interest with the Downtown Association. So she can't even vote on downtown matters. I can. So that's the one thing that I can offer within our office. Not only can we offer this, we can also offer ensuring that we have a democratic check-in and a democratic process to how businesses are represented within our local municipalities. Ensuring that we have growth, but that we also have sustainable growth at the same time. Under the current directorship of the Downtown Association, which again is directed by my opponents, there is around 40% of vacancies within the downtown businesses. So that is something that I'm critical of, and I will seek to improve the business within downtown to ensure that we maximize and that we fill those vacant spots up with thriving local moms and pops that can provide services for our people.
Thank you. Pass it back to Cameron. Thank you so much.
Great, thank you. I just wanted to say first really quickly that if any people in the audience want to ask the questions at hand, please put it in the chat. We could potentially pull a few of those out later. But yeah, moving on to our next question. This one is about Measure M, which I'm sure we all know. It stands to change how height limits work. It stands to change the minimum requirement for affordable housing in multi-unit buildings. And I want to start off with Ms. Marin, because I know that you are a vocal supporter. So what is how do you see Measure M, and why do you support or oppose it? Starting with Ms. Marin.
Yeah, of course, Cameron. There's one thing that you said that I want to correct you on. And I don't want to be the older dude, correcting the younger dude. I get the whole, you're too young comments all the time. So the correction is Measure M actually asks for a democratization process in amending the general plan. And what's going on right now is the concurrent city council is seeking to amend the general plan to increase buildings that go way past the current height limits that we have. So it's a democratization process, right? So if the community wants to have these big buildings and these big towers, they have the rights to vote to upzone under Measure M as well. It's just a matter of voting yes on that effort, organizing for that effort, so all voices are heard within the table. And the one thing that made me really supportive of Measure M is ensuring that we also have growth, but that we have sustainable growth. Sustainability is the key in ensuring that we have a thriving a local business community within Santa Cruz. Too much of a good thing can be a bad thing, right? So I know that the housing element and that the state is mandating housing for our comunidades and for our communities, and that's true as well. But what is also true is that that these buildings don't have to be 15 to 20 stories high. Within our office, we'll ensure that if the people want to vote for buildings that are as high as 10 stories, 12 stories, 15 stories, then they have a right to vote. If the community thinks that that's unsustainable, then they also have the rights to vote no on those efforts as well. It's just a matter of democratization. And one of my favorite parts within the Measure M initiative is also the inclusionary housing rate. It's increasing the inclusionary housing rate, or the initiative asks to increase the inclusionary housing rate from 20% to 25%, meaning that we get more true affordable housing units as well. So we get more affordable housing units, and not only that, students get to be housed. Small business owners have that sustainability, and small business owners and business owners in general have a say in how development affects our local community. So that's why I'm such a huge supporter of Measure M.
Thank you for that. And I just had a really quick short follow-up question on that. So as far as the increase from 20% to 25%, how do you balance the need for housing with incentives to build housing?
Yes, so I'm all about for fair deals, right? Fair deals that serve both our communities and also our business collaborators that we can potentially have within the market. So within my union organizing background, we're all about collectively bargaining for fair deals for working class and middle class folks, and that also includes small business owners. Small business owners are largely middle class and also come from the working class. So within my office, we will seek to advocate for fair deals, collective bargaining sessions, and ensuring that we mediate a conversation where we can maximize the amount of housing units we can have within the city for our lower income and very low income folks, while also ensuring that the real estate developers also profit within the process, so we can have that mutual collaboration. So you will have that collaboration within our office.
Great, thank you for that. And moving on to Mr. Schindeldecker, same question to you. What's your stance on Measure M?
Yeah, I'm supportive of Measure M. I've said this before publicly, I probably will again. I wasn't a participant in writing it, and if I had been, I would have taken a different direction. I think that we could do much more with a citywide community workforce agreement, which would bring together our Green New Deal, our general plan, our objective standards, union and non-union labor and small businesses, minority businesses, community groups of all kinds. So I would have taken that direction, and I would like that to take the city in that direction on city council, regardless. In terms of Measure M specifically, I'm not so interested in the building height aspect of it. But I do think that, you know, like I said, my biggest motivation is that we have participatory democracy and a true partnership between constituents and governance bodies. And I think our general plan, that was a long and democratic process, 7 years in the making. And for the planning department and the city council to come through and you know, in a relatively shorter period of time, even though it went through public comment and everything, to push through something that was radically different, really radically different from that general plan agreement, I think that is undemocratic. I've always said, it really bothers me, the framing of this as a new neighborhood south of Laurel, to put a 4-acre sports stadium, whatever the tax revenue from that may or may not be, you know, sports stadiums generally don't actually benefit cities in the long run. There's a lot of research on that. But to put a 4-acre sports stadium over top of where there literally is existing affordable housing, Section 8 housing for people is, I think, a really, really problematic in terms of displacement and gentrification. Can I just add, I know that time's up flash there, so I sort of stopped abruptly, but just to add, in our general plan, we have, there's been identified like 8,000 potential housing units. And so we could totally, you know, we could build enough housing for the people who need it now and to satisfy the RHNA numbers with what's already identified in the general plan, with density bonuses, you know, like along Mission Street here and all these underutilized parcels that have been identified, we can build enough housing for, you know, 1,000 people. But we have to have the financing in place, and we have to have the community processes to, you know, make that happen in a way that people are not going to appeal these things endlessly. Now I'm done. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you for your response. And yeah, moving on to so Erin, if you have your position on M.
Yeah, and just before I talk about Measure M, I did want to talk about Hector's last comment about Sonia Bruner. She's not the director of the Downtown Association, nor is the Downtown Association responsible for vacancy rates in the downtown. So I just wanted to provide that clarity. So my stance on Measure M is really different than Joy and Hector's. I'm against Measure M. I think that the fabric of our community, and specifically our housing community, has changed over several decades. Since Silicon Valley started to boom in the late 70s and 80s and all the way through COVID, truly the demographics of folks that live here has been changing. This is not a new situation. And for us to react to that and build enough housing to ensure that our teachers, essential workers, our medical professionals, our students can live here, we have to build housing. That being said, I'm not supportive of projects that fall way outside of the character of our neighborhoods. And I think that we have current legislative processes within that are democratic, that are within our purview as a city to ensure that the projects that we consider are part of the character and can fit into the character of our neighborhoods. And I don't know if my opponents watched the council meeting from this week, but an independent third party did do an evaluation of Measure M, and I would agree with Joy that it probably was not written intended to trigger some of the widespread challenges that would be created if we voted this in, including limiting folks that are trying to add on to single family homes. That might trigger a vote of the people, which could cost $115,000 to $200,000. So, I think it's a challenging measure because I think it's hard for some folks to kind of understand the way that it's characterized and being marketed, but I am against the Measure M and in support of building housing in our community.
Thank you for that. I just have a really quick follow-up on that. So as far as your opposition to Measure M, an aspect of Measure M is the increase from 20% to 25% of required affordable units. So how will you ensure that the housing that is built is affordable?
Is affordable? Yeah, I mean, I think that we have, inclusionary policies that we have spent quite a bit of time over the last several years considering. The state has a density bonus that allows for folks that are coming in and trying to develop to have incentives to build more affordable housing. I think the distinction between 20 and 25%, I mean, there's studies across the Bay Area that suggest that if we go too high, we actually lose housing because developers can't really make the profit that they need to make, even if they are intending to build with a lot of, affordable and deeply affordable units. So, I think we have a very solid process that we have built that has been considered over many cycles and, quite frankly, many different council bodies. So I think, as I mentioned, we need many, high density of affordable and deeply affordable housing. But we also need to ensure that we do not lose development potential because we're fighting over a couple percentage points.
All right, thank you. See, I direct chat. If this is in reference to the Sonia Brunner, is really quickly, but then we will have to move on to our final question.
Yes, of course. So the title is Director of Operations. So Operations Director, Director of Operations, tomato.
Okay. You can put that up. Moving on to our final question. I think Richard will handle that.
Hello again, everybody. Now to ask the final question, it's just going to be a little bit more open-ended, give you guys the opportunity to talk about something you're really passionate about when it comes to Santa Cruz. So if you could wave a magic wand and make one change to the city of Santa Cruz to make it better, what would that look like? And since you haven't gotten to go first, Ms. Schendeldegger, please go ahead.
Oh, if only there were like 10 wishes. It's so hard to choose just one. Because there are several things that if I could just snap my fingers, I would want to just take care of. But I'll speak a little bit more about housing because that's what I was working on some research before I jumped on this call. I think it would be really great if we introduced a municipal community land trust and land bank. I think there are models for this. Just many models and guides for local jurisdictions to do this. This, I think, could be a way for us to increase our affordable housing stock and housing stability for tenants and owners while we wait for new housing to come online. I mean, even when we get something approved, there's no guarantee that it's going to be built soon, quickly, or even ever. We have major projects listed on the city's planning site that are on pause right now because, they've made it all the way through. And then, the federal, rates go up and the builder says, well, I'm just gonna wait, so we are kind of at the mercy of not just our national financial system, but really a global system now with hedge funds and multinational corporate property managers really involved. This is when I talk about real estate fingers, I'm really talking about that level, like the California Apartment Association, Greystar, Blackstone type of real estate activities happening here. And a community land trust would be a way for us to really reclaim some of our land back for stewardship and affordable housing, keeping people in their homes.
Thank you so much, Ms. Schendeldegger. Now moving on to Mr. Marin, if you could wave a magic wand and make just one change to the city of Santa Cruz to make it better, what would that look like?
Yeah, of course. So if we're talking about institutionally, then I would say the publicization and the a much more open-ended process for the budget of the city of Santa Cruz, ensuring that every single resident has a say not only every single resident, but regardless of if whether you're undocumented or documented, that you also have a vote and that you also have a say in where your taxpayer money goes to, because that's the capital that funds all of these city services, all of these social and housing services that benefits our comunidad. So that would be one thing that I would want to ensure that we have, that everyone, because with me, I come from a migrants family. My parents are migrated from Mexico, and when they migrated from Mexico to the United States, they told me in Spanish, I'll say it, but que tengas ventaja de todas las oportunidades que tú tienes, porque estás en esta nación, meaning that take advantage of every single opportunity that you have, because you're a citizen within this country and you have so much rights and so much ways to involve yourself in the local political process. So that would, so I mean, within, if we have that, that means everybody gets a say in what we economically buy in for. Not only that, but everybody, regardless of class status, regardless of paper status, regardless of race, gender, etc., we're all involved within our service. We're in service with one another because we're in a community like that. So that would be my one wish. But of course, like one sentence, if it was unlimited, if there was a second wish, housing everybody, even the homeless person as well, housing everybody and ensuring that everyone benefits in that process. So yeah.
Thank you so much, Mr. Marin. And now Ms. O'Hara.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for the question, and again, for the opportunity to engage with the chamber. So for me, living up on campus and being affiliated through my husband with the campus since we moved here in 2006, if I had a chance to wave a magic wand, it would be to improve the relationship and the connections between the city on the Hill and the city of Santa Cruz. There are models across the US where the campus, whether it be along a big university in Madison or another university in California, where there is deeper connections, and that there are more connections between the students and neighbors. Living up here, we have such a tremendous wealth of thought leaders, entrepreneurship, innovation, ideas. All of this is blossoming up here with students and staff and faculty, and it can serve as a pipeline to enhance our workforce and think about how to diversify our economy in Santa Cruz. I think we've had periods of time when we've had deeper connections between the campus and the city. Unfortunately, we're in this, these couple lawsuits right now over housing, which I think has eroded some of the deep connections we've had in the past. And it's an important, issue that we're trying to tackle, whether, as the university expands, where is that housing going to go and what's the university's responsibility? So while I totally agree that we need to have this conversation, I think that there is so much more potential to really capitalize on the incredible brain power and passion we have for the community that's up here, and forge more and more connections between the university, students, faculty and staff with the greater community.
Thank you so much, Ms. O'Hara. And now I'm going to go ahead and pass it off to Cameron to wrap this all up.
All right. So we didn't get any chat questions, so I think it's nearing 5. So I think we're just going to go straight into any kind of closing statement. So just summary of what we said here today, and yeah, if you have any final points that you want to make, feel free to make it. So I guess we can start with Joy. Please.
All right, thank you. Yeah, I didn't prepare a closing statement, so I'll just recap what I've said today, and maybe just I think sometimes, or well, often, I don't know how often, but one of the pieces of feedback that I get from hesitant voters is that they're worried that I'm too far to the left, too radical. And so I've been thinking about this because I also get criticized from people on the left that I'm not radical enough. So, you know, you kind of can't win, right? You're gonna like get criticized no matter what you do. You can't make everybody happy. And I've also been talking to my kid who's taking American history, and we're talking about political models. We were talking about communism the other day. And I want to reassure people that like I have my ideas, my values that I think are served best through a model like democratic socialism. But I'm not here to impose that on anybody. I think, you know, this is a nonpartisan service to the community that any council member does. And you know, we are obligated to listen to every constituent and to facilitate consensus building, to learn from each other. And, you know, that doesn't mean that you give up your values, but it also doesn't mean that you just impose on people and force people to do things. We have to build consent together in our community. It's such a small community in so many ways that, you know, we run into each other in the grocery store. Everybody knows each other or has dated someone or has like a family. There's somebody's cousin. It's you know, we have to continue to get along and be kind even when we disagree and our souls hurt because we feel so strongly about what we see as injustice in the world, you know. So that's something that I think about a lot is how to stick to my values and principles and also remain open-minded and try to stay, you know, level. It's something that I'm learning in middle age.
Moving on, Mr. Moran, if you could have any closing remarks, summary of what you said here today.
Yeah, of course. So the mantra for our campaign for 2024 is community first. We want to ensure that we put community first within our local political process. And that means involving everybody within the local political process. Not only do we want to make sure that everyone's heard, but that everyone also feels belonged and amplified within this political process. Meaning that when we meet with business owners and when we consult with business owners about growth, we will ensure that such growth is friendly towards our neighborhoods, but not only friendly towards our neighborhoods, but that we also vote accordingly in the needs and in the voices and in the concerns that small business owners express. That's the main thing that you will get. That's the main promise you will get from our political office. And not only that, we also must ensure that we all come together and that we all have mediated conversations regardless of perspectives. I know Measure M is a very highly divisive topic, but I want to represent those that say no on M. I want to ensure that we have a mediating conversation in our office. We'll have that mediation. We'll have that balancing of perspectives so we can decide what is best for our community so we can move forward. That's the main key right there. So if folks feel called to vote for independent thinking, to vote for sustainability, to vote for not only all of that, but much more energy within the current city council, we will have that. And we will have this consistent engagement throughout our office. We won't just reach out once every 4 years. We'll reach out every single day, every single week. So you have that consistency. And you also have the promise from me to also do my homework. I'll make sure to eat all of my vegetables because I know I'm pretty young. But Generation Z also needs to have a voice in the council, but we also must study up on the nuances of developments and on policies because we all can learn a little bit more on that regard. But we got the energy to involve everybody within the process. We also have the passion. And yeah, hopefully we have your support and don't hesitate to reach out. So thank y'all so much for the space. Again, you know, major shouts out to Richa, Cameron, and also to is she still here? To Channing. There you are. You're right there. To Channing as well. Because again, I used to be a UCSC activist moderating conversations with city council candidates, and it's very challenging. So major shouts out to y'all. Salute to all of y'all.
All right, thank you for that. Yeah, and finally moving on, Ms. O'Hara, finish us out.
Yeah, thank you. I guess the way I would frame my closing statements is that, you know, I I really think the intersection of the chamber's mission is exactly the same as what the city's mission should be. Really focusing on creating a vibrant and prosperous community. So we all, whether we are visitors, business owners, or residents, want to be here, are attracted to Santa Cruz, want to spend our money here, and want to, raise our families here. That particular goal of the chamber is something that I am supportive of, and obviously, if I'm elected to city council, will be a big part of my work on city council. The second big goal around knowledge transfer and making sure that whatever kind of business you own in Santa Cruz, that you know what's going on in Santa Cruz, is something that I think, all three candidates talk about in terms of engagement across the community. It doesn't matter what you're interested in, how old you are, what's your socioeconomic status, you should be engaged, and there should be knowledge transfer. So I do think that is another important intersection with the chamber's goals in the city. And then really just around member success and thinking about long-term vision. If we think about our city and all of the different systems, businesses, partners, stakeholders that are involved, how do we create a model of success and constant growth and innovation and evolution for everybody? So, I'm just really, so pleased to have had an opportunity to chat with not only you UCSC students, and I'm just so pleased with the work that you guys put into putting the questions together. I'm glad we didn't tackle all of them, because some of them I was, have to have a PhD in economics to get to some of those answers. But yeah, it's just been really a pleasure, and I'm very much looking forward to working with the Chamber of Elected, and very excited to continue with the dialogue. Thank you.
Oh yeah, thank you. I'm also somewhat glad we didn't do all of them, because otherwise we'd be here for a much longer time. But yeah, thank you everyone for coming, candidates and chamber members. And just so you guys know, we will be posting this recording to the website in case you wanted to review. But yeah, I think that's it for our forum today. Again, thank you everyone for coming, and good luck.
Good.
If you have anything, yeah.
As the CEO of this chamber, I get the last word.
Of course.
I just want to do a big shout out for our interns. I think they're doing a wonderful job. We gave them this assignment and they followed through expertly. So thank you for all your hard work. As Cameron mentions, we will clean up this recording and make it available on our website, so other people that didn't have the fortunate opportunity to be on this call, they can listen in. We have a couple other candidate forums scheduled for next week. We're doing the same type of format, inviting 2 or 3 candidates to come and making it clear that we're not trying to match the candidates in one district against the other district. The business community represents the entire region. And so we wanted to have that kind of conversation. So I want to thank the candidates that took the time this afternoon. I know it's a tough road to hoe, and March is just around the corner. So wishing you all the best of luck. Enjoy it, because it is a lot of fun at the end. And interns have a final word, please do so.
No, just thank you very much, and I hope everybody has a good evening.